The Outback saves the day, Tracy's triumph, and Ronnie's devastating secret, in what can only be described as one of Port Charles' most dramatic weeks. The Quartermain family faced not one, but two bombshells that would forever alter the landscape of their already turbulent world. The discovery of Monica Quartermain's authentic will, aided by an unlikely four-legged hero, led to the undoing of an elaborate fraud scheme. But what came after left everyone reeling. A revelation so shocking that it threatened to unravel the very foundation of family identity itself. Ronnie Bard, Monica's long-lost sister, came bearing a secret she could no longer contain, one that would prove to be far more significant than any will or inheritance dispute could ever be. The mansion scheme unravels. The tension had been mounting for days as Drew Kane prepared to seal his acquisition of the legendary Quartermain mansion. What should have been a straightforward transaction became increasingly complicated, with Martin Gray orchestrating moves from the shadows and Ronnie unwillingly playing a crucial role in his scheme. The plan was brilliant in its deception. Present a forged version of Monica's will that allegedly left her entire estate to her supposedly unknown sister, Ronnie. With the inheritance in hand, Ronnie would then sell the Quartermain mansion to Drew, effectively removing the property from Tracy's hands and delivering a crushing blow to the family matriarch. But fate, it seemed, had other plans. While Drew pressed Ronnie to sign the final paperwork in the Quartermain mansion, a separate discovery was taking place across town. Tracy, going through Monica's belongings, stumbled upon documents she didn't know existed. Among the boxes scattered throughout Lulu's residence, Tracy found something remarkable: Monica's real last will and testament. The difference between this document and the one Ronnie was being pressured to recognize was immediately apparent. Monica had left her precious possessions and, crucially, the mansion itself to Tracy, not to a previously unknown sister. The revelation sent Tracy into action. Understanding exactly what was happening and who was responsible, she raced to the Quartermain mansion to stop the sale before it became official. What happened next seemed almost orchestrated by the universe itself. Just as Ronnie was about to sign the house over to Drew, Outback ran in and snatched the paperwork, holding up the sale. One observer noted, the Quartermain family dog became an unlikely hero in the drama, literally preventing the completion of the fraudulent transaction by grabbing the contract in his teeth and scampering away. By the time Tracy arrived with her evidence, the damage had been arrested mid-execution. As the truth began to unravel, Ronnie made a decision that would prove to be the catalyst for everything that followed. Ronnie's confession. Tracy burst into the room, her face flushed with emotion. "Get out of my house," she said coldly to Ronnie, brandishing the authentic will for all to see. Her voice carried the weight of betrayal, not because Ronnie herself had orchestrated the scheme, but because the woman had allowed herself to become entangled in such a web of deception. But before Ronnie could respond to Tracy's fury, she took a different path entirely. In a moment of clarity, faced with the undeniable truth that the fraud had been exposed, Ronnie decided to come clean about the entire situation. She confessed that Martin Gray had orchestrated the entire scheme, blackmailing her into cooperation and forcing her to participate in the plan to sell the mansion to Drew. She had been a pawn in his elaborate revenge plot against Tracy, a willing participant. Yes, but ultimately one who had been coerced and manipulated. "I didn't know who created the forged will," Ronnie explained, tears streaming down her face as she addressed the assembled family members. "Martin put everything together. He knew about me, he found me, and he convinced me that this was about justice for what Tracy had done. But I was just a tool in his hands. I never wanted this." The revelation that Ronnie herself was not the mastermind behind the fraud surprised many in Port Charles. She had seemed so calculating, so deliberate in her actions. Yet the truth was more complicated. She was as much a victim of manipulation as Tracy was. Martin had used her against the Quartermains, leveraging her complicated feelings about family and belonging to get what he wanted, which had never really been about inheritance at all, but about settling old scores. With Martin arrested and taken away by Detective Chase, the immediate crisis seemed to have passed. Tracy had her house back. The fraud had been exposed. Justice, of a sort, had been served. But as the dust began to settle, no one realized that the most significant revelation of all was about to come crashing down on the Quartermain family like a tidal wave. The bombshell that changes everything. The family gathered to mourn Monica properly and to begin processing the emotional fallout from the chaos of the past week. In a moment meant for reflection and memory, Ronnie asked for a private audience with Jason and Drew. What she was about to tell them would make the will forgery seem like a minor inconvenience. "There's something I need to tell you both," Ronnie began, her voice trembling as she prepared to share a secret she had kept bottled up for decades. Something Monica knew but asked me to keep secret until after she was gone. She felt the truth would be too overwhelming while she was still fighting her illness. Jason and Drew exchanged glances, both sensing that whatever revelation was coming would fundamentally alter their understanding of their family history. They had already experienced profound shocks regarding their identities, discovering they were twins separated at birth, learning that their memories had been manipulated through experimental procedures. But this was different. This was about their very origins. "Monica wasn't just my sister," Ronnie continued quietly. "I wasn't just living with our father's aunt in California all these years. The truth is I gave birth to twin boys in 1981, and I gave them up for adoption because I was young, unmarried, and completely unprepared to raise children." The room seemed to stop rotating. Jason felt the world tilt beneath his feet. He and Drew had been told their entire lives that their biological mother was Susan Moore, a woman who had died when they were young. Their father, Alan Quartermain, had supposedly been involved with Susan during his marriage to Monica. The narrative they had built their lives around complicated as it was suddenly shattered into pieces. "You're saying you're our biological mother?" Jason said, his voice barely above a whisper, his usual emotional control beginning to crack under the weight of this revelation. Ronnie nodded, tears flowing freely down her cheeks. "Susan Moore was a close friend who agreed to help me create a cover story," she explained. "She claimed to be your mother to protect my reputation and my family's standing in the community." Alan knew the truth. He was never involved with Susan romantically. He was involved with me. And when I became pregnant, we agreed that the best solution was for the babies to be placed with loving families who could provide better lives than I could offer. Drew staggered backward, struggling to process this information. His entire identity had been built on a foundation of lies within lies. First, he discovered he wasn't Jason. Then he learned that his memories weren't his own. Now he was learning that even the basic facts about his birth mother were fabricated. "Why now?" he demanded, his voice hardening as his shock transformed into anger. "Why wait until after Monica's funeral to drop this bomb on us?" "Because Monica begged me to wait," Ronnie replied, her voice growing stronger as she continued her confession. "She knew how much pain both of you had already endured discovering the truth about your identities. She wanted you to have time to grieve her properly before dealing with this additional trauma. But she also knew that keeping this secret any longer would be unfair to all of us." Ronnie pulled out additional documents, original birth certificates that had been sealed for decades, DNA test results that confirmed her claims, and letters from Alan Quartermain acknowledging his role in the elaborate deception that had shaped both men's lives from birth. The ripple effects. As the truth sank in, both Jason and Drew began to understand the full implications of this revelation. The woman they had mourned as a loving adoptive mother had actually been complicit in a massive deception that had affected every aspect of their lives. The biological mother they had never known was standing before them, a stranger who shared their DNA but had no real place in the lives they had built. For Jason, this news added another layer of complexity to his already complicated relationship with the Quartermain family legacy. Monica had loved him unconditionally, but she had also perpetuated a lie that had denied him the opportunity to know his biological mother during his formative years. The years when knowing Ronnie could have made a profound difference in his life trajectory. For Drew, the revelation was perhaps even more devastating. His journey of self-discovery had been particularly painful, involving the loss of his original memories and the struggle to build a new identity separate from Jason's shadow. Now he was learning that even the foundational story of his birth was built on deception, not malicious deception, perhaps, but deception nonetheless. I know I have no right to expect forgiveness or acceptance after staying away for so long, Ronnie said quietly. But I want you both to know that not a day has passed that I haven't thought about you, wondered how you were doing, and regretted the choices I made when I was young and afraid. As the three of them stood in the fading afternoon light, the future remained uncertain. Port Charles had witnessed many shocking family revelations over the years, but this particular secret promised to reshape the Quartermain family dynamics in ways that no one could fully predict. The truth about Jason and Drew's parentage would inevitably spread throughout Port Charles, affecting not just their immediate family, but the entire complex web of relationships that define life in this small but eventful community. What began as a relatively straightforward fraud scheme, one that was ultimately foiled by a dog named Outback, had evolved into something far more profound and complicated. Tracy had reclaimed her rightful inheritance, and Martin Gray would face consequences for his actions. But the real story was not about the mansion or the money. It was about identity, family bonds, and the terrible burden of secrets carried for too long. Ronnie, once presented as the mysterious sister appearing to claim a fortune, emerged as a far more sympathetic figure, a woman trying to reconcile with a past she had been forced to abandon, carrying the weight of a secret that Monica herself had been unable to disclose until after her death. She had been used in Martin's scheme, manipulated into participation, but her confession ultimately served as a catalyst for an even greater truth. For Jason and Drew, the aftermath would be a journey of recalibration. They would need to reconcile their feelings toward Monica, honoring her love while grappling with her deception. They would need to find a way to integrate Ronnie into their lives if they chose to do so. And they would need to process the reality that family identity is far more complex and multifaceted than any simple narrative can contain. As Port Charles moved forward, one thing was certain: the Quartermain family would never quite be the same. But perhaps, in the revelation of truth and the difficult work of reconciliation that would follow, they might find something more valuable than any mansion or inheritance: the possibility of authentic connection, built on honesty rather than deception, and the understanding that family is ultimately about the bonds we build and maintain, not the secrets we keep. NTAN, not the secrets we keep. Next, we will learn about the shocking twists in Port Charles as Anna Devane's life hangs in the balance with a chilling kidnapping plot that could unravel long-buried secrets. In the shadowy underbelly of Port Charles, where loyalties shift like the tides, General Hospital's latest spoilers reveal a harrowing ordeal for the ever-resilient Anna Devane. Picture this: Anna, the sharp-witted former spy with a knack for dodging bullets and betrayals, finds herself ambushed in the most mundane of places, her own vehicle. As teased in the upcoming episodes airing the week of November 3rd to 7th, a mysterious figure lurks in the dim parking lot, armed with a rag soaked in chloroform that swiftly silences her struggles. This isn't just any random snatch. It's a calculated move by a twisted abductor whose motives seem tied to Anna's relentless pursuit of truth. Fans have long admired Anna's unyielding determination, from her WSB days dismantling international syndicates to her personal battles against villains like Faison. And now this peril threatens to strip away her control in an instant. The preview footage captures the raw tension, Anna's eyes widening in shock as the fumes take hold, her hands clawing futilely at the door handle before darkness claims her. This kidnapping isn't merely a plot device, it's a catalyst that could expose fractures in the town's fragile peace, forcing allies to question how deeply the shadows of the past still reach. As Anna vanishes into the night, her predicament escalates into a full-blown crisis, stranding her in a lair fraught with unknown hazards that test her survival instincts like never before. Spoilers confirm that once subdued, Anna awakens in a fortified hideout, perhaps an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of town, echoing with the drip of leaky pipes and the hum of distant machinery bound and disoriented. Her spy training kicking in to assess her captor's identity through subtle clues like the faint scent of expensive cologne or a discarded newspaper hinting at local grudges. The abductor, shrouded in enigma, might be a disgruntled former associate or a pawn in a larger conspiracy, whispering taunts about unfinished business that Anna thought she'd buried years ago. Her dangerous entrapment could involve psychological games, with the kidnapper dangling riddles about Caesar Fazen's elusive final project, a shadowy endeavor involving encrypted files and hidden alliances that Anna has been quietly probing. This setup amplifies the stakes. Not only must Anna escape physical restraints, but she also grapples with the fear that her disappearance might endanger those she loves, like her daughter Robin or her on-again, off-again flame Robert Scorpio. The narrative builds suspense through close calls, such as Anna nearly freeing herself only to face a booby-trapped door, underscoring how her expertise in espionage now serves as both weapon and vulnerability in this isolated nightmare. While Anna fights for her freedom and secrecy, the ripples of her absence begin to stir concern among Port Charles' tight-knit circle, potentially delaying any immediate rescue as the kidnapper employs cunning deceptions to maintain the facade of normalcy. Imagine the abductor rifling through Anna's possessions, snatching her smartphone, and meticulously crafting text messages to her inner circle phrases like sudden lead on an old case. Heading out of town for a few days, stays safe sent to Robert, Felicia, and even Dante Falconeri at the PCPD. This digital charade buys precious time, mimicking Anna's concise, no-nonsense style to evade suspicion, perhaps even including emojis or personal anecdotes pulled from her recent chats to sell the illusion. For the average friend or colleague, this might suffice, lulling the police department into complacency and preventing a full-scale manhunt from launching prematurely. Yet, in a town rife with deception, such ruses rarely hold forever. Subtle inconsistencies, like a timestamp mismatch or an uncharacteristic sign-off, could plant the first seeds of doubt. This layer of intrigue highlights the kidnapper's sophistication, possibly a tech-savvy operative with ties to Fazen's old network, turning everyday communication into a battlefield where Anna's fate hinges on how long the lies persist before cracking under scrutiny. Amid this web of false trails, one individual stands poised to pierce the veil: Felicia Scorpio, the vivacious private investigator whose intuition has unraveled countless mysteries in Port Charles. As GH spoilers tease, Felicia's radar pings almost immediately upon hearing of Anna's trip, her years of friendship forging an unbreakable bond that makes any anomaly feel like a personal affront. Recall their shared history, Felicia and Anna bonding over high-stakes adventures, from joint operations against the Casa Dini Empire to heartfelt conversations in dimly lit diners about balancing espionage with family life. Felicia's Scorpio heritage, infused with Mac Street smart edge, complements Anna's polished precision, creating a dynamic duo that saved each other more than once. When Anna goes radio silent beyond the scripted texts, Felicia's gut instinct flares. She paces her cozy home, replaying recent conversations where Anna confided worries about loose ends from Fazen's era, her brow furrowing as she cross-references calendars and call logs. This suspicion isn't paranoia. It's the honed edge of a woman who's navigated her own share of abductions and betrayals, from her Casa Dini entanglements to personal vendettas. Felicia's decision to act transforms a vague worry into a proactive quest, positioning her as the narrative's beacon of hope amid the gloom. Delving deeper, Felicia's impending investigation aligns perfectly with her character's arc, as upcoming GH teases signal her diving headfirst into a fresh case that dovetails perilously with Anna's vanishing. As a close confidant, Felicia's concern manifests in tangible steps. She might start by visiting Anna's apartment, noting the untouched coffee mug and open files on her desk scattered with notes on Fazen's cryptic Project Phoenix, a rumored initiative blending bioweapons and corporate espionage that Anna believed could resurface threats to Port Charles. Felicia's probe could expand to canvassing witnesses near the kidnapping site, interviewing shady informants in the docks who whisper about a black van spotted fleeing the scene, or hacking into traffic cams with help from her TechWiz contacts. This storyline weaves in Felicia's personal stakes. Her family ties to the Scorpios make her hypervigilant against losses, and pursuing Anna risks reigniting old dangers, like drawing the kidnapper's ire if they catch wind of her meddling. Spoilers suggest this case isn't isolated. Fall previews already foreshadowed Anna's peril stemming from her Phazon obsession, a villain whose posthumous shadow looms large with unfinished schemes involving frozen assets and sleeper agents. Felicia, unwittingly or not, steps into this minefield, her determination fueled by memories of Anna's unwavering support during Felicia's darkest hours, such as the wrenching loss of her daughter Georgie. The trail Felicia follows promises escalating peril, potentially ensnaring her in Phazon-fueled hazards that blur the line between ally and target in Port Charles' treacherous landscape. As she pieces together clues, perhaps uncovering a burner phone linked to the abduction or a forged document tying back to Phazon's European contacts, Felicia grapples with the realization that Anna's captor might be safeguarding a legacy of chaos, including experimental tech or blackmail dossiers that could topple local power players like the Quartermains. Inventing a twist, envision Felicia stumbling upon a hidden message from Anna, etched subtly on a discarded item, urging caution against a double-crosser within the WSB ranks. This danger isn't abstract. Felicia could face tailing sequences through rainy alleys, evading hired muscle dispatched by the abductor, or decoding riddles that reveal the kidnapper's grudge stems from a botched operation years ago where Anna's actions inadvertently caused a family tragedy. Her involvement heightens the drama, as Felicia's boldness channeling her adventurous spirit from globe-trotting escapades clashes with the sobering reality of putting her life, and possibly her loved ones like Maxie or Mac, at risk. Yet, this peril underscores Felicia's growth. No longer just the glamorous sidekick, she's a force reckoning with ghosts of the past. Her investigation a testament to the enduring power of friendship in a world of shifting alliances. As Felicia charges forward, alliances form and questions mount about the depth of her resolve and the shocking revelations awaiting in the shadows of Anna's ordeal. Will she enlist Jason Morgan, the stoic enforcer whose Port Charles connections and no-holds-barred tactics make him an ideal partner, perhaps reaching out during a tense late-night call where Jason, fresh from his own entanglements, agrees to provide muscle and intel on underground networks? Jason's involvement could introduce high-octane action, like stakeouts turning into chases or interrogations yielding cryptic leads on the abductor's hideout. Alternatively, Felicia might loop in Robert Scorpio, Anna's ex and a fellow spy veteran, blending emotional turmoil with strategic prowess as they pore over maps and timelines. How far will Felicia push? Spoilers hint at her going rogue if official channels stall, infiltrating seedy bars for tips or bluffing her way into restricted areas, all while dodging traps designed to silence snoopers. Amid this frenzy, jaw-dropping updates emerge. Perhaps a mid-rescue twist reveals the kidnapper's true identity as a Phazon protege seeking revenge, or Anna uncovers evidence of a broader conspiracy threatening the entire town. As the storyline surges, Felicia's quest not only aims to liberate her friend, but also unearths layers of deceit that could redefine loyalties and ignite fresh conflicts in Port Charles. In wrapping up this electrifying preview, the synergy between Anna's captivity and Felicia's pursuit promises nonstop thrills, reminding viewers why General Hospital masterfully intertwines personal stakes with epic intrigue. Stay tuned as these developments unfold, where every clue could mean salvation or doom, and the bonds of friendship prove unbreakable against the darkest threats.